Okay, so guys and girls, good evening. Welcome back to FTRL, our second version of the All Things Football podcast. Joining me tonight will just be Joe Burns, who was with me for the first one. Good evening, buddy. How are you, first of all?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I can hear my voice echoing slightly through your mic. I don't know whether it's a sensitivity thing. I don't know.
I
Um,
turned on the audio.
Lovely.
I hope so.
Cool. Yeah, so we will be discussing various things from the world of football. Please feel free to get involved, drop comments in, we'll read them all out, discuss any points you guys have got. It's a completely free place to express whatever opinions you like. You might not agree with what we say, but this is the whole purpose of football. It's a game of opinions. So first of all, let's kick things off. Let's go in big. The North London derby today, Joe.
Yes.
Frustrating game for some, entertaining for others. What was your take on it initially before we go into details?
Um. I mean, it was an odd game. Just decisions, just all over the place, which is a topic that we're going to get into a little bit later on. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was quite a close game. But again, it's just one of those games that's just been thrown by weird decisions.
Yeah, well, we've had our first comment coming from Mr. Humiliation saying, did you think Arsenal versus Tottenham game deserved to be a draw or should Arsenal have won? We'll come to that very soon. First of all, Joe, how the team set up. Now, there was a lot of controversy from the Arsenal perspective of why Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was left out, why Lucas Torreira was left out, why Sead Kolasinac was left out. He opted to go for 4-2-3-1 formation with Granit Xhaka and Guendouzi, Mustafi at right back, and then Iwobi, Mkhitaryan and Lacazette with Ramsey in the number 10 role. When you saw that lineup initially, what was your first thought?
I mean, I know you, so you would probably say I will be at left wing, but Mustafi at right back is an odd one. I mean, I know you don't have many players who can play right back, but even so, I mean, even when he plays at centre back, he just looks lethargic, and he doesn't strike me as a Premier League defender. But at right back, it's probably even worse. And then your nemesis Alex Iwobi at left wing, which is a bit of a weird one. I mean, I was speaking to Simon earlier today, Blue Flag for those of you who might know him. Whereas if you've got two strikers with the quality of Lacazette and Aubameyang, and like you tweeted earlier today, they ripped Tottenham apart in the first game in the Prem when they played each other. So why you wouldn't just play both of them is just beyond me.
Yeah.
It's odd.
And, I mean, before I go into my thoughts and opinions, the Tottenham lineup. So they opted for three centre-halves with two wing-backs. They had Musa Sissoko, Wanyama, and then Son, Eriksson, Kane. Thoughts on how they set the game up?
I like Tottenham. They are. I mean, I probably know if you want to hear that, but they're a very good side. I mean, Mohamed Sissoko? Did you say?
Musa Sissoko.
Musa Sissoko. That's it. He's not played much this season, has he? I don't think so.
He kind of comes in and drips and drabs, really.
Choice.
Yeah.
So
He plays a lot more than what you'd think. He plays a lot more than what you would think.
I mean, I don't watch enough of Tottenham to know, but they've got some pretty good midfielders. So that's a bit of a weird one, especially when you got Lamella and types. But I guess with the way they've set up, he fit that system best. But yeah, they've got a real good team, Tottenham. Very, very solid. Two real good wing backs. So yeah, Eriksson at left wing, Harry Kane obviously back. Yeah, good team.
Yeah, it was so. Personally, my thoughts on there were obviously there was a lot of confusion. If you look at Unai Emery since he's come into Arsenal, he's doing a good job for what he's got. I think he bought well in the summer. Obviously, Arsenal need a lot of work But what he did
Yeah.
buy, I'm happy with, because Leno, I mean, the double save he pulled off in that game just states exactly what Arsenal have needed for a long time. Because that was just an absolute moment of quality from him all round. Socrates, I thought, deservedly so, got man of the match today, if I'm going to be honest. Matteo Guendouzi, 19 years old, £7 million from the French second division. What you would probably class as a typical Arsenal buy, but something that I think he's got spot on. And obviously Lucas Torreira. Obviously he got that red card today, which we'll come on to later on, but he's as close to what we've needed in central midfield for a very long time. He doesn't tick all the boxes in terms of what you would typically define as an Arsenal centre mid, but what he has done is good. So in terms of how we set the team up, I understand why he put Mustafi at right back, because you've got no Hector Bellerin for a long time. Stefan Lichtsteiner, he's past his sell-by date, let's be fair. He can probably do a job maybe against the teams in the bottom half of the table if we really need it, but he's on old legs. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is another one that can play there. He was on the bench. I thought it was strange how he was left out, but the reason why I think he put Mustafi there is because Mustafi's played international football for Germany at right back, and if I'm not mistaken, he played fairly well there quite consistently. But it just shows the depth, or the lack of depth, I think, that Arsenal have got. Then obviously they're moving forward. The biggest thing I didn't understand, like you quite rightly said, was Lacazette and Aubameyang. Last time they played Tottenham at the Emirates, when we beat them 4-2, Lacazette and Aubameyang absolutely destroyed Tottenham, and there's no argument for that. What I found the most surprising was going off of the way we played against Bournemouth in midweek. I know people might say, oh, it's only Bournemouth, but let's, all bullshit aside, Bournemouth are a very, very good team. We absolutely annihilated Bournemouth in an attacking sense. We were all over them, and we had Mesut Ozil playing, we had Mkhitaryan playing, and we had Kolasinac playing as well, who brings such a different dynamic to Arsenal. He's not technically a left winger, he's not technically a left back, you don't really know what he does, but in an attacking sense he's an absolute monster, and people can't deny that, because he's a big strong boy and he gives a fight. And I think what Arsenal have typically done, especially over the last 10 years maybe, they haven't got anybody that's up for a battle, up for a scrap, and sometimes you need that little edge. If you remember in the first leg of the North London derbies this season, there was all of the players down by the sideline kind of half scrapping with each other. Kolasinac was getting right involved in the emotions of the game, and I think sometimes you need a couple of those types of players. So I was surprised with the lineup, and obviously me being me, and anybody that knows me even slightly knows how much I despise Alex Iwobi. The only point I'm going to make on that is he scored 3 goals and got 3 assists in 27, 28 games this season. That would not even be acceptable at National League level for an attacking player. And I was having various arguments with people on Twitter today, and they were going, yeah, but Arsenal, Iwobi ticks all the boxes. Iwobi, he's the link-up man. He's not. He's got his head solely focused on the grass, does not lift his head up. He might have a flash in a game, and I'm not saying he's completely useless, because he's not, but he's nowhere near ready to play for Arsenal. So I don't understand. I really don't understand the thought process behind it. But let's move on into the game, Joe. There was obviously Arsenal got that goal in the first half for Ramsey. Tottenham's defence was all over the place. They looked tired. They looked scared, given how badly they've been playing recently. Ramsey goes through. Opinions on that goal? Was that just a good counter-attack, a clever counter-attack, or was it just unorganised defence from Tottenham?
I think it was taken well. Obviously, Tottenham at home, they seem to struggle against the sort of the bigger sides. Like, I don't know whether Pochettino just sets up wrong against attacking sides, or whether they just struggle with the intensity. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was an alright goal.
Yeah, well,
Nothing too spectacular, but
no, I mean, I think personally, Tottenham, they didn't understand their own shape, and I think that's the reason why you had Lacazette, who won the ball from Davinson Sanchez, who completely messed up his header. All that had to do was go high and far. If he's one-on-one with Lacazette on halfway line with nobody else behind him other than the goalkeeper, as a central defender, that's just got to go. Doesn't matter where it goes, it's just got to go. So that was, I thought, was a mistake from his part. Other than that, I thought we had a brilliant performance today, Davinson Sanchez. I thought he was excellent. Moving on to Tottenham's goal, obviously we gave away a really crap free kick halfway into our own half. Ball gets floated in by Ericsson. Yes, Harry Kane was offside. There's no denying that. The linesman had his head. He wasn't even stood in line with the defence, which was really annoying. If you look at the picture, he stood and he's having to put his head down low and look round to see if anybody's offside. That's just schoolboy. But you know, these guys can't get everything right. I understand that. Ball gets floated in. Harry Kane's between Koscielny and Mustafi. Mustafi then decides to put his hands on him, shove him, and that's a penalty. Simon Mertens, as well, blue flag as we know him, has said Mustafi isn't a top level defender in my opinion, and it showed in the Tottenham penalty decision. Koscielny was there and I think he would have dealt with it. I don't know why Musti put his hands on Harry Kane. Can we elaborate any more on that, or is that just a perfect point?
I mean, he's pretty much summed that up. To be fair, I mean, especially in the Premier League, if you put your hands on anybody, the player is likely to go down, especially if it's Harry Kane and Tottenham.
Yep, I agree. And then obviously Harry Kane tucks that penalty away, and then the second half was just mad. I mean, we made the decision to bring on Torreira for Guendouzi at half time, which I thought was a good move. Then obviously Arsenal, on the whole, I think Arsenal deserved to win that game today. Tottenham didn't really threaten Arsenal at all. I thought Arsenal for once defended very well. And the main reason for that was Socrates. Obviously Tottenham had chances, and Tottenham will get chances. You know, they're a top quality team, and even though I'm an Arsenal fan, it doesn't shy away from the fact that I respect a good football team, and Tottenham are exactly that. But coming towards the end, obviously Arsenal got that penalty, a very, very soft penalty. In my opinion, it wasn't a penalty.
Yeah.
And this, like I said, I'm saying this from a fan point of view. If we're going to be honest, it wasn't a penalty. Aubameyang steps up. Hugo Lloris obviously saves it. I've seen pictures on Twitter, across social media. Vertonghen is already pretty close to Aubameyang before he's even hit the ball. So, if we're going to be picky, that should have been retaken. But on the other hand, Aubameyang's missed it. Vertonghen's then got himself the head start and put himself on the goal line, made the block, fair enough. Then the Lucas Torreira red card comes right at the end of the game. What was your view of that tackle? All things taken into account.
I mean, you see those sort of challenges quite a lot, but I think with this, it's hard because with tackles like that, it's always the player. So it's the player in control of himself. So I mean, he's not jumped in there sort of erratically, but he has gone over the ball, and he has, you know, gone in with his studs. So I can see why he's been booked.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, purely down to the basis that I think as he comes in, he comes through well and wins the ball. The follow through, he's lifted his leg up to, I think, avoid any follow through, and it's caught the top of Danny Rose's shin. It doesn't look like there was any momentum on that at all. I think he's just lifted his foot up, and that's what Anthony Taylor, the ref, seen and pulled out the red card. Now, he completely won the ball. It was the inverted commas follow through which caused the problem. Was it or was it not a red card in your view?
Nah, I don't think it's a red. I think a yellow would have been fine.
Right.
But, North London derby. Tottenham are at home. So, and I
Yeah.
mean, if he's only seen Torreira going in and Danny Rose just flying, the home crowd's going to go mad. So,
Yeah, well, I think given all of the decisions that happened today, I do honestly think, and I'm sure, maybe kind of hope you agree, that on the balance of play, I do think Arsenal deserve to win that today. I don't think they deserve to draw or lose. Given the chances they created and how well they were set up compared to Tottenham. Tottenham kind of was a case of 11 men on the pitch, we can't afford to lose again. But those things happen. But given obviously what we've mentioned about the officials, that brings us on to our next point. And this point was raised to me by Terry, or as we know him, FTRL Hammer Time. He said to me, well, the first question I've got for you, Joe, is would you or would you not agree with the statement that the Premier League is the best league in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt, yeah. And I would say 75 to 80% of the best players in the world play in the Premier League. If we look at it, obviously you haven't got Messi and, there's Mbappe and whatever else, but as a whole...
Yeah, the odd few.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at... The way I always view things is if you take the team that are bottom of the Premier League versus the team that are bottom of, Serie A, Liga and Bundesliga, whatever else, in my opinion, the team at the bottom of the Premier League will always go and beat those teams because there's a massive difference in quality. That being said, obviously there's a lot of international footballers coming into the Premier League. There's a lot of money invested, advertised into the Premier League, and it's become a worldwide brand as opposed to just a team. Would you agree with the statement that we should also have the best officials in the world in the Premier League? Because Terry's point to me was, you look in the Champions League, you look in the Europa League, any international competition, you've got referees from all over the world, the best referees, officiating the top games. In the Premier League, without the assistance of VAR or whatever else, should we have the best of the best referees in the Premier League, or should it kept to just the English refs? And the reason I say that is because the referees are so protected, and this isn't coming off the back of North London Derby, this is something we've been discussing for a long time. If you look at it, you look at the referees, if something happens to a footballer, if a footballer dives, a footballer gets, a retrospective ban, he gets a fine, he gets whatever the FA throw at him. If the referee makes a decision, the referees are protected, they aren't allowed to be called out. The managers or players get fined if they mention the referee, if they've done something wrong. Now, if a referee has a massive comedy of errors, the worst thing they'll do is move them to the Championship, and that just moves the problem. The problem's still there, the problem's just been put elsewhere. Should the Premier League or should the Premier League not have the best referees in the world officiating the games?
I mean, obviously, if you're the most watched league in the world, then you would expect the highest quality of officiating. Except, I mean...
It's a good point, isn't it? It's a good question. Because it's something that most people wouldn't have thought of before. Like, in that sort of aspect of things. And this is why it brings up a proper debate, which is what this is. So people who's watching this, please let us know what you think as well for that point. But I'm interested to hear what you say on this, Joe.
There is a select number of referees who always seem to get the big games and always seem to have a controversial game. The likes of Mike Dean and Atkinson and all that. But, I mean, do worldwide referees look at the amount of grief that the referees get in the Premier League, and would they want to sort of put themselves in the firing line? It's not a case of can the Premier League... Well, I guess it is. I guess it is. The sort of question is, can the Premier League attract the best refs? It's not always a case of just getting the best refs. do the big refs want to even referee in the Premier League?
You say that
With
though.
the Champions League and go on.
I was just going to say, sorry to cut in on you, but
Okay.
you say that, but it's exactly the same for the players. The players could be like, this could be the make or break of my career. I go to the Premier League, the best league in the world. I represent one of the best teams in the world, or whatever else. You know, there's going to be a massive amount of pressure on them. And a lot of people have come to the Premier League and they've flopped. A lot of the people have come to the Premier League and they've been a massive success. Now, referees have now become professional. Referees, that is their sole job. They get paid a lot of money to do what they do.
Yeah.
If they've got that professional, and I do that again in inverted quotes, if they've got that title, then they should have to do whatever they're required to do. It's like going to any job. You've got a job title, and your manager or your senior tells you where you've got to go and do your job. You go and do your job because it is your job.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Andy's just made a good point in the chat. He said it's difficult because the top European referees sort of referee in a completely different way. And he's mentioned, obviously, in European games, you can see how much they disrupt the flow of the game. Which, is a fair point.
Yeah.
Would these other referees coming from outside the Premier League, would they give away a lot more free kicks and the odd little nig over tackle, which you see in the European games? Because, as we know, the Premier League is a hard and fast league. You see all these flair players coming from all over the world, and they do not like it because they get kicked a hell of a lot. If you bring over these referees, they're just gonna blow for everything. So.
But it just then reiterates the point. Like, you've got these European players coming over that play a different style of football. In Spain, for argument's sake, like Casemiro, perfect example, was a big-built Brazilian holding midfielder. Should be as hard as nails. I remember seeing him a couple of years ago. Was it Champions League final? Or there was Real Madrid were playing against somebody, and he barely got touched, and he juddered and fell backwards over the course of about 5 seconds, and then went down holding his shin when he got shrugged back by his shirt. So that's just the way that the football is going. Now, Goy's come in here and said, good evening, Goy, by the way. He said, for the amount of media attention it gets, the huge TV deals over the past few years, they should have the best of the best. Simon also said, I agree, Premier League should have the best of everything. Pagani's then come in and said, I think refereeing in England isn't even the top 3 in the world, especially since Clattenburg retired. It doesn't seem like new referees are coming through. So it's either got to be one thing or another. It's either got to be you. If you're getting the best players in the world, in the best league in the world, you should have the best officials in the world. You either do that, or you look at what you've already got and think about how you can make it better. Because I promise you, for a fact, you go back, 15, 20 years, maybe not even that Lucas Torreira tackle today would not have even been a booking. Because he won the ball and it was the follow-through that caught him. I remember seeing so many games throughout my childhood where, you look at the Arsenal United days of Vieira and Keane, they would pretty much punch and headbutt each other all day. And it would only be if something extreme happened that there would be a red card or there would be an actual moment of discipline. It's completely changed. So now that even the football in England's changing, if you've got the referees from all over the world coming in, when the English game's transformed into that type of game anyway, would it make that much of a difference? I don't think so.
Fair point. I mean, I can't really argue with that. I think referees in the Premier League now are a lot less respected as well. I mean, you can even go back to, what was it, last week or the week before, where Pochettino practically marched onto the pitch and had a bit of a barney with Mike Dean.
They squared up to him, didn't they? Yeah.
So, yeah, I think refereeing is a touchy subject now in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it seems like every game, if not every week, just mistakes upon mistakes.
I mean, I don't know if you ever got the chance to watch the Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville thing where they train to be linesmen. Did you ever see that?
I didn't.
Yeah, so basically, Jamie Redknapp, Gary Neville went to like the referee institution and whatever else, and they had a full day of training and just go through what happens on a day-to-day basis at the home of all the referees. Now, they've got so much technology, they've got so much training. Every single and they even the referees have to write up a report after their games, reviewing every decision they made and an honest bit of feedback. Now, I like that concept a lot, and I have got an incredible amount of respect for referees and linesmen and all officials because it is a tough job. It's a really tough job, and even from myself, I managed at, like I said, non-league level and whatever else, fairly close to the Football League. But even at that level, the referees get so much stick. So it is a tough job, and there is a lot of pressure on it. But there needs to be something that comes into place, and maybe VAR is that answer that gets the more accurate decisions right. Let's not hide away from the fact that football is a game of opinions. Football is about opinions. If football didn't have opinions, it wouldn't be nowhere near as popular as what it is. Match of the day would not exist, and stuff like that. That aspect of things will still be there, but it will be based around the correct decisions. So I think VAR coming into the Premier League is going to be one of the best things that's happened for a very long time, because things like today, wouldn't have happened. Or, I remember off the top of my head, there was an incident a couple of years ago where Swansea played Burnley, and one of the Burnley players handled the ball in the box. The referee gave the penalty thinking it was a Swansea player. Swansea then lost that game, ultimately got relegated that season. That, not saying that defined their season, but it can define form. If you win a tough game or a well grinded out game, you're going to have confidence going to the next game. If you lose a game, you've then going to go into your next run of games knowing you've lost, and it's a whole different type of mindset, a whole different type of mentality. So overall, I think it'll have a massive effect. But I do think that this whole point raised by Terry is a brilliant point, because it's something not a lot of people would have thought of. But I mean, any final?
Thing is with VAR,
go on.
The referees that are looking at VAR are still making mistakes while watching VAR. So, in that case, VAR is pointless. So, is there any need to bring VAR in where you stop the game, the referee goes over, watches the video, and still makes the wrong decision?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near perfected yet. There's, don't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. But I think what it will do is, if there is a clear touch for a penalty, or there is, an offside decision which is blatant but a referee's not seen it, those sorts of things. And I don't think it didn't work that badly in the World Cup, because it was used in the World Cup, and it, as England fans, we watched our players get wrestled to the ground by pretty much anyone and everyone. And those sorts of things were cut out by VAR, so it will make a positive difference. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better. So, and given, like I said, the standard of the English referees, and Pagani, like with his point, has just said, the English referees, there doesn't seem to be anybody coming through. There's no sort of young referees coming through. So eventually the ones that we have got are going to fizzle out, and is the next group of them going to be even worse than what we've already got? The last good referee we had in England was Mark Clattenburg. I thought he was superb. Before that, we had Graham Poll, who gave 3 yellow cards in a World Cup final to the same player. And do you know what I mean? It's just, it's an embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment. Like, those are your bog standard basic rules. Everyone makes mistakes, I understand that. But if you're making mistakes as simple as that, then what are you gonna benefit from? You know what I mean? You're not going to get the big decisions right if you can't even make the little ones right. But moving on. Anyway, next point, because we can go on about this for a long time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We spoke about him in the first podcast, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it was when he was just appointed. I think, or it was just before he was appointed. But
few games after, I think.
Yeah, he's come in. Still undefeated in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Lost one game. Should it be his?
Yeah, without a doubt. If you go on that sort of form, I mean, I've got the stats here.
Oh, go on.
Since taking over, played 16 games. That's including Champions League. He's won 13, drawn 2, and lost just once, and that was obviously the game with PSG. 41 points within that time. If you then go for an outside manager who doesn't know the club, doesn't know the philosophy, comes in with a completely new style, I don't see the point in that.
No.
Unless it's a really well established manager who has won a lot of trophies. I don't see the reason, because people are talking about Zidane, in which case, yeah, you could say he's won multiple Champions Leagues and back to back and all that, but he had one of the greatest teams in European football. I mean, it's hard not to win things with Real Madrid. So, yeah, I mean, if I were United, I would stick with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, there's been articles online saying that he's already done promotional videos next season for season tickets and stuff, so
Yeah.
it might already be decided.
Yeah. Well, there is that, but the thing is, if you look at Zidane, yes, one of the greatest players to ever play. Went to Real Madrid, but had Cristiano Ronaldo, had Luka Modric, had Gareth Bale, had Toni Kroos, had Rafa Varane, all of these players. Fair enough, you've still got to do something to win, Champions Leagues and whatever else. I understand that completely. But you say about well-established managers, United had Jose Mourinho. He's won multiple Champions Leagues. He's got Premier League experience. He's got all of these other things.
That was very much the other way for United, though. Instead of bringing in a well-established coach that met their philosophy, they brought in a manager that just knows how to win. But he didn't fit that club at all. That was at a time where they'd had multiple managers and were struggling more and more. And they've just thought, I know, let's just get in a manager who knows how to win a league title. He might not do it the greatest way, but he could probably do it. But the thing is with United, the players that was there, and the history that team has, he was completely a mismatch for that club. The football he played is dead.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
It's true though. It's bang on.
He didn't get the right things out of the players. He brought in, I mean, he brought in multiple players who just didn't work and are now considered deadwood at the club.
Yeah. I mean, just the final point, like with that, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's proved himself massively. I mean, yes, United would want to go through, get further in the Champions League. They're against PSG. PSG have got arguably one of the most exciting players we've seen for multiple years in Mbappe. They've got Neymar. They've got all of these other players, so it's always going to be a tough game.
In Europe, without a doubt.
Exactly. So you can't really fault him, considering he came into a club which had zero belief, a group of players that had multiple egos but not enough ability on the pitch, a bit of a deadwood squad in some areas. He ain't going to work miracles. I think what he's done so far should be classed as a miracle, because he's taken United from nothing to something again. And let's be honest, United, arguably, bar Real Madrid, the most famous club in the world. You go to any country in the world, you say the words Manchester United, everybody will know. Doesn't matter whether it's Asia, Africa, South America, it doesn't matter where it is. Everybody will know of Man United. So it's a massive responsibility for him. But the reason why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should get that job, in my opinion, is not just because of what he's done, but what he's also experienced. He was at United for their best ever time. those
Yeah.
Fergie generation golden years. You know, he was right in the middle. He was in the core of that club when they had all of the hype in the world on them. They had, you know, a fantastic squad, but they had a brilliant manager. They had everything, but he also knows what it's like and what it means to those around him. So for me, it would be the most stupid thing in the world if he doesn't get that job. It literally is as simple as that. And again, coming from an Arsenal fan, I do not like Manchester United in any way, shape, or form. But like I earlier on said, I also respect good players, good people in football, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is one of those sort of people. So I think it would be silly to go else from there. Just reading some comments. Goy said Alan Pardew, can't count him out. Andy said the trouble with Mourinho is he buys ready-made players who can be towards the end of their prime instead of using the money and the academy to develop young and promising players where he can mould them to his style of play, which is spot on. This is like the point we made.
He nearly forced out Martial. Martial is one of the most exciting prospects in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah, he is.
And the guy didn't even want to play. He did not want to play for that manager at all.
I mean, as much as I despised this player, the resurgence of Pogba, yes, fair enough. He's been in a good run of form with goals, with assists, with whatever else. You buy a player for £80 million, he should be doing that anyway. Yes, he's only been doing it against, if you like, the bottom half clubs or the clubs outside the top six. Nevertheless, it's still an improvement to where he was. Because under Mourinho, he was a nothing player.
I mean, we weren't. This wasn't on the sort of topics list, but if they don't stick with him, who do you think they will get in instead? I mean, obviously the main talking points would be Zidane and Pochettino.
I don't think Poch would leave Tottenham to go to United. If Pochettino leaves Tottenham, no, I don't think he would. I think if he does anything, he will go to. He would go back out to Spain. I don't think he would, purely on the basis of the relationship he's got with Tottenham, with what he's done at Tottenham. He's well settled there. The fans love him, and for what they spend, they're overachieving. You know.
Oh yeah.
So I think he's in a good position where he is. I don't think he would leave to go to another Premier League club. Not because it's not a step up, but because I don't think he would do that. You look at Moyes, I know it's a bit different, but when Moyes went from Everton to United, Moyes had Everton overachieving, battling for top four, even got them into the Champions League at one point. Now, he then went to United, everything changed, all the Everton fans hated on him. He suddenly went from being a very popular man in football to a very unpopular man in football, and look where he ended up.
David Moyes, the football genius. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, but this is what I mean. Everyone makes these jokes about him, but if he was still Everton, or looking back at what he did there, he did brilliant there. No one can argue that fact. So, you know, it is what it is. It just comes down to the same point. I don't think Poch would go anywhere other than back to Spain. But no, for me, Ollie's got to get the job. It's a dead cert. But I mean, I know a lot of people, like Andy just said, has reached his limits with Tottenham, maybe. But you know, given the points I've just made, that's why I don't think he would move to another Premier League club. I think he'd go European, probably back to Spain. We won't spend too much longer on all this because we've been going for nearly an hour now, and obviously we have got more points to cover, which we'll maybe do, you know, over next weekend possibly. But final point that we'll discuss for now. Oh, quick question. Given the Kepa incident recently in the cup final,
Yes.
obviously very controversial, would you have kept him on? Would you have fined him and gone through the way that the Sarri's gone through things, or would you have given him the benefit of the doubt or whatever else?
No. I mean, regardless of how good you are as a footballer, regardless of how much you think you can have an impact on the game, as soon as your number comes up on that board, you go off. I don't see any reason why you would sort of go against a manager like that. He obviously doesn't respect him enough to just come off. I mean, especially with the keeper that he was bringing on. Caballero is known as a penalty specialist. He had played for Manchester City before. Him coming on for that penalty shootout, okay, you're never going to know how he would go, but Sarri had his reasons. Now, for Kepa not coming off, although they brought out this whole, it was a misunderstanding, he had a groin injury but wanted to carry on and all that crap. If that was fact, then Sarri would not have reacted how he did when Kepa didn't come off. Yeah, I mean, I'm always sorry for that. I'd find him a lot more, to be honest. I'd find him a hell of a lot more. And I think he was right to keep him out against Tottenham as well.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm in complete agreement with you, mate, on that. Like I said, although it's nowhere near that level, like I said, even coming from my own background, if one of my players refused to come off, even at non-league level, that's it for me. I would be absolutely fuming, because it doesn't just show a lack of respect for the manager, it shows a lack of respect for your teammates, the coaching staff, the club themselves, everything. So I can understand where Kepa's coming from, because he's obviously shown, that sort of passion, and he wants to be successful, and he wants to do these things right, and he wants to win. I get that 100%, and it would be a very demoralising thing to do. But it reminds me of, you go back to, was it a World Cup or was it a Euros? Holland had Jasper Cillessen in goal in a knockout round, and they bought him off and brought on Tim Krul just before the end of extra time. Tim Krul ended up saving the penalties and Holland went through. That might not have happened. Chelsea might not have won that, but if the manager's made that decision, whether you like it or not, you've got to go off. You're earning hundreds of £1,000s a week to do a job. The least you've got to do is show a bit of respect where the respect is due. So I'm with you on that point. But
it kind of shows a lack of leadership through the spine of the team as well. I mean, John Terry even said after the game when he was doing his pundit things, he said if I was captain of that Chelsea team, I'd have gone over and dragged him off the pitch. When you look at that Chelsea team, nobody was sticking up for the manager. Nobody was. Okay, they were having a little chat with Kepa, but it didn't seem very urgent. It didn't seem like they were that bothered.
No.
Whereas, the old players, Lampard, your Terrys, even Drogba, they'd have gone over there and they'd have dragged him off that pitch.
Yeah, they would have done. That's exactly right.
Could you imagine if a player under Jose Mourinho had refused to come off, or under Sir Alex refused to come off the pitch? Mayhem. It'd be absolute chaos in that dressing room after the game.
Well, Andy's just said, don't you find it a little respectful, though, from Sarri that he's played him for the entire game, just take him off for a penalty shootout, and did Caballero play all the previous rounds? I think it was jumbled up between the two. I think they kind of had a bit of a mixture in terms of who was in goal.
I get what Andy's saying there, by the way, but it's like, if you have a penalty specialist on the bench, I don't know, like Lampard. Say Lampard was on the bench, known for taking very good penalties. If you have one substitution left and you're going into a penalty shootout, and the player that you want to bring off has played that 90 minutes, if you're bringing on a penalty specialist, it's to help you in that game. Football is a team game.
Yeah.
Regardless of how well you think you've done in that game, regardless of what you think you could do in the penalty shootout, the manager obviously has a reason for bringing you off and putting the other player on.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. It's no different for bringing off a goalkeeper for another goalkeeper, although it's a bit of a protected position and whatever else. If you've got a penalty specialist on your bench who's going to take a penalty and who's going to score it, it works exactly the same thing with a goalkeeper. Like, if you've got reasons for taking off your goalkeeper and making that decision, as hard as it's going to be, as demoralising as it might be, at the end of the day, you're part of a team. It's not an individual sport. You would much rather come off that pitch feeling a little bit crap, but then in 10 minutes know you've won the cup, running around with a medal. You're going to forget you've come off. I think what we're going to do is we will hold it there for tonight because we've been going for an hour pretty much. And then I think we might revisit this tomorrow because we've still got some more points and I'd like to go into more depth tomorrow. But yeah, because I think we don't want to keep it too much longer than maybe like an hour. So we'll wrap that up to there tonight, and then maybe we'll do one either maybe later on or tomorrow. So yeah, well, thank you for joining me tonight, Joe. I know it's been cut fairly short, but obviously we rabbit on and we get carried away and it goes on for a bit of time. But thank you for those who've been commenting and watching and whatever else as well. And revisit us tomorrow when we'll probably be doing our next one. Failing that, it'll be next weekend. But we're going to discuss Brendan Rodgers, Claudio Ranieri getting sacked, the relegation favourites, so to speak, the top four. We're going to discuss all of that sort of stuff. So please come and join us then, and we will catch you next time.